All right. Hello. Hello, all year six students. Okay, let's begin our class. Okay, today we'll be on a new topic, which is energy and movement. Okay, get yourself ready. Take out your student book as well as a highlighter or a marker or anything you wish to use to underline or highlight. Okay, are you all ready? Okay, let's begin by looking into our objectives for today, which is students will be able to understand that movement requires energy. No matter what you do in life, if you want to move something, you always will need energy. Energy is the base for a lot of movement. Actually, the most movements we have in our daily life. Okay, number two, students will be able to understand that all moving objects have movement energy. I think that is quite obvious, but it's just a recap. Okay, open up your textbooks to page 64 and 65. Okay, give you a minute. Open up your textbooks to page 64 and 65. Okay, get yourself ready with your highlighters. Okay, let's go. So, our topic for today, energy and movement. Now, energy allows object to do work. Okay, in scientific language, work means more than just physical labor. It includes things such as breathing, moving, cooking food, and objects falling to the ground as a result of gravity. Okay, now I want you to highlight energy allows object to do work. Highlight energy allows object to do work. Okay, highlight breathing, moving, cooking food, and objects falling to the ground as a result of gravity. Highlight breathing, moving, cooking food, and objects falling to the ground as a result of gravity. Okay, now all of you have already learned. Okay, gravity is basically the pull towards the center of the earth that keeps everything in its position, not like everything is floating. Okay, with that, I'm sure that if by understanding gravity itself, you should understand how energy and movement works and how our next topic, friction, works too. Okay, so let's try answering this question. Look at these pictures, they all show energy making things work. What work is happening in each picture? Okay, let's see. Number one, what can you see? Okay, making breakfast by toasting two pieces of bread. So you see here, the toaster itself make the two pieces of bread actually jump a bit higher so that it indicates that it has been done. So this is also a form of energy and movement. Okay, that is number one. Number two, this number one, this number two. Okay, he's off to work. Oh no, sorry, he's off to school. So maybe he lives in a high-rise condo or apartment. So he's using the elevator. He just pushes a button to go all the way down. Okay, so the action of pushing the button is also a very small form of energy and movement. Very good. Okay, number three. Okay, this is number three. Okay, number three. The school bus coming forward to fetch him to go school is another form of energy and movement. Okay, number four. Maybe at school or after school, he is jumping rope. So the action of using a rope, okay, and to jump across the rope is a very obvious example of energy and movement. Okay, number two, where is the energy coming from to do the work? Okay, now for picture number one, the energy of the toaster is coming from electricity. I think you guys already learned what is electricity. Only when you connect electrical appliance to its main source of energy, which is electricity, it can work. So number two, him pushing the button, just him pushing the button, the energy came from he himself. Okay. Number 3, the school bus. School bus moving forward. So energy came from a chemical in which we call petrol, or maybe in this case, maybe the school bus use diesel. Okay, so that is where the energy is coming from. Number 4, the energy is coming from himself. Very good. Like how number 2 is, because he controls how the rope is moved or turned. Okay, that's number 2. Very good. So far, so good. Okay, let's go on to our next page, which is page 65. Page 65. Okay, we need energy to move our bodies just as other objects need energy, often in the form of a force to start them moving. Okay, so now I want you to highlight, okay, we need energy to move our bodies. Highlight, we need energy to move our bodies. Okay. So of course, anything where if it starts from us, we need that energy from us itself. So it is a form of force. Okay. In addition, all moving objects have movement energy, which means they can do work as a result of the movement. Okay. Highlight, all moving objects have movement energy. Highlight, all moving objects have movement energy. Okay. Think about kicking a ball. Okay, this is Ronaldo, right? Okay. He is one of the world's best footballer, I would say, maybe athlete. Okay, let's label him as an athlete. Okay, without the energy that comes within him, obviously he can't be doing, football as a career. I mean, you can't even kick the ball forward, or maybe like stop the ball from moving. Anything he requires energy. Okay, think about kicking a ball. Your foot moves to make the kick. The energy from your moving foot provides the force needed to start the ball rolling. The ball then has its own movement energy that allows it to do the work of rolling. Okay, this is simple. Now, I want you to highlight the energy from your moving foot provides the force needed to start the ball rolling. Highlight, the energy from your moving foot provides the force needed to start the ball rolling. Okay. So far, so good? Okay. This topic is simple. The next one will get slightly complicated, but it's not hard or tough. Okay, number 3. Make a list of 6 things beside your body that have movement energy. Okay, this one you can think for yourself. You don't have to do as homework, just maybe a food for thought, All right, let's check whether we've achieved our objective for today. I have learned movement requires energy. Class, did you all understand that? Okay, great. Number 2, all moving objects have movement energy. Did you got that? Okay, loud and clear. Very good. Okay, let's continue to our next lesson. Friction. I think all of you know what friction means. I think maybe some of you have already learned this topic. Okay, never mind. Just take this as a revision. Okay, first things first, our objectives. Okay, now, number 1, we'll be able to understand that friction is an invisible force that occurs when surfaces are in contact with each other. Number 2, will we understand that friction resists movement, so it slows down object or causes them to stop moving. Okay, so far so good? All right, let's continue. Open up your textbooks to page 66 and 67. As usual, get yourself ready with a highlighter. Let's go. Okay, friction. Okay, what can you think of when you come to think of friction? Okay, now friction is a very unique force. Okay, it does not come directly when you exert force onto it. For example, let's say the action of push and pull. Simple. When you push an object, that's the pushing force. When you pull an object, it's the pulling force. But friction comes only after that. That means when you push a box, for example, here, this guy here, he's pushing this box which seems to be heavy. So that pushing force has caused friction to exist because of the two different surfaces that is touching in contact with each other. Good? Understand? Okay, maybe you don't understand yet. All right, now imagine this is the other opposite way. That means he's pulling the box. Okay, when you pull a box, you will cause a pulling force, but then will also cause friction because no matter what, two surfaces will be in contact. So when they are in contact, friction will come about. Okay, don't understand yet? Okay, never mind. We'll go through it. Okay, now, friction is an invisible force that occurs when objects come into contact with each other. Okay, now, I want you to highlight invisible force that occurs when objects come into contact with each other. Highlight invisible force that occurs when objects come into contact with each other. Okay. And I want you to highlight pushing force equals to friction. You must always understand. Pushing force equals to friction. This is because when something is heavy, okay, what's the difference between the up image and the down image is that the up image, the box seems to be heavy. The down image, the box seems to be light. So when it is heavy, it is basically not moving. So that's why the pushing force is equal to friction. Okay, next I want you to highlight does not move. Okay, so when the pushing force is equal to friction, the box does not move. Okay, in the next scenario, let's say the box is light, easier to push, right? So him pushing that force itself is greater than friction means the box actually moves across the floor. Okay, highlight pushing force greater than friction. Okay, and highlight moves across the floor. Okay, so far so good. Am I moving too fast? Please let me know if I am moving too fast, class. Or else, please ask the teacher in charge to pause the video. Okay, let's continue. These questions we'll save it for later. When two objects, such as your finger and your desk, move past each other, they exert a force on each other. We call this force friction. So far, so good, because why? The two objects, which is your finger and your desk. Now, if you take your finger, just rub against your desk, it's basically two surfaces coming into contact with each other. And that's exactly what is friction. Friction is a force that acts against or resists movement so that things slow down or even stop moving. Okay, this is a very important sentence. Highlight. Friction is a force that acts against or resists movement so that things slow down or even stop moving. Highlight. Friction is a force that acts against or resists movement so that things slow down or even stop moving. When you want to move something, you have to use enough energy to overcome the force of friction. So look at these diagrams carefully. The arrows show the direction and the size of the force. A longer arrow shows a greater force. That's exactly what I just explained. Okay. So what is important here is that I want you to highlight, okay, you have to use enough energy to overcome the force of friction. Highlight. You have to use enough energy to overcome the force of friction. Only when you have a bigger or greater pushing force, that's when your object actually moves. This is what I have explained. Okay, so this is what causes objects to move. Okay, so far so good. Too much information so far. Are you all okay? Okay, let's continue a bit more. Then I can recap this into a shorter note so you can understand. Okay. Friction occurs when objects are in contact with each other because the surfaces of objects are never completely smooth. Now, I want you to highlight surfaces of objects are never completely smooth. Highlight surfaces of objects are never completely smooth. Okay. Think about it this way. If let's say you were to rub your leg, your feet against carpet, of course the carpet is somewhat rough, right? And your feet rubbing against it are two different surfaces of object that are not precisely the same. So that's why it causes this force we call friction. Okay. Even surfaces that look smooth have tiny grooves and ridges on them. If you examine them under a microscope, yes, no matter how smooth a surface looks like for example, tiles, the white tiles, have you all come across that, in the bathroom and all that? Yes, it looks smooth and all that, but then when you put them under the microscope, you still can see holes. You can see small particles in which they look like they have not a smooth surface. Okay. When the grooves and ridges of one other surface meet the grooves and ridges of the other surface, they stick together and this produce the force of friction between objects. Okay, maybe you don't understand. Maybe you don't get what is this hooves and grooves. It's fine. Okay, let me show you a quick one. This one actually is supposed to be a notes, but it's okay. Now, this is how actually a microscopic image of how certain um, surfaces look like. In this case, ice. Okay, see here, they are not precisely straight. They have their smooths and grooves. Okay, this is what does it mean by smooths and grooves. So imagine another surface with smooths and grooves. Of course, when they go across each other, they will cause this force we call friction. Okay, don't worry about these notes. You will do this in a bit. Let me continue the above part. Okay, back to getting your highlighters. Okay, now I want you to highlight, okay, surface meet the grooves and ridges of the other surface. They stick together and this produce the force of friction. Highlight, surface meets the grooves and ridges of the other surface. They stick together and this produces the force of friction. Okay, next. When the surfaces are pressed together more strongly, the surface stick even more closely together and the force of friction is increased. Okay, this one I need to highlight because it's common sense. When you push these two surfaces more rougher or more closer together, they will have a higher force of friction. Okay, look at this picture of the brakes on a bicycle wheel. Okay, do you know how do you actually stop your bicycle wheels from moving? Is that they don't have the brake that we have similarly to a car. This is more like a manual brake. Okay, it's simple. It's just this, you see this black part. Okay, this is called a brake pad. A brake pad will stop the bicycle rim from moving. So when these two surfaces are closely in contact, it will cause friction and eventually the bicycle will stop moving. Okay, you see here. Look at this picture of the brakes on a bicycle wheel. The rubber brake pad comes into contact with the metal surface of the wheel rim when you apply the brakes. Okay, so eventually it causes it to stop. Okay, let's recap. Okay, what is friction, class? Okay, friction is an invisible force that occurs when objects come into contact with each other. That's number one. Number two, what I want you to remember, only when you want an object to move, your pushing force should be what than the friction? Your pushing force should be Yes, greater or more than the force of friction. That's all I want you to remember. Easy. Okay, let's recap. Did we achieve our objective so far? Number one, did we understand that friction is an invisible force that occurs when surfaces are contact with each other? Did you all understand that? Okay, very good. Number two, did you understand that friction resists movement, so it slows object down or causes them to stop moving? Did you understand that? Okay, very good. Okay, now I want you to take out your exercise book. Okay, write the topic friction. Okay, write this topic friction and the date for today. I want this figure that I have created for all of you because I want you to understand what is friction, how weight moves, how motion moves. So I want you to draw this. Okay, draw this nicely in your exercise books. Okay, I will put a timer of maybe, let's see, I think 15 minutes will do. Is 15 minutes okay? Put a timer of 15 minutes. So I want it to be completed in 15 minutes. Okay, let me just change this. Okay. Okay, here you go. This is a timer for 15 minutes. Wait, let me just adjust my screen properly. Okay, nice. All right, class, please do these notes in your exercise book right now. Teachers, can you please help me by making sure they do this in the exercise books? Okay, I'm sure 15 minutes was more than enough. So let's finish up today's lesson. Okay, now take note of your homework right now. Open up your student book to page 66 and 67. Earlier, remember, this is a pages. So I want you to do questions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in your exercise book as usual. As usual, don't need to write the questions, just write the answers in your exercise book. The topic is 4.5 friction. Okay? Complete questions 1 to 7 from your student book, page 66 and 67. Make sure only write the answers in your exercise book. All right. That's all for today. Thank you very much, class. Take good care of yourself. Bye.